we were brought in at the very last minute and told when the rest of the public was told that our employees unilaterally were going to have to come back into the office 50% of the time by June 1st. This is going to have devastating impacts on our members. We had some people reaching out yesterday after they got the order to look for daycare for their kids. It's a 6 to 9 month wait list to get their kids in daycare. We heard from other people that went down to one car during the pandemic because both adults in the house were working from home. They're going to have to go get another car, insurance, gas, all the things that come with it, with minimal notice, and it's not enough time. We have helped recruit and retain a qualified, dedicated workforce that wants to come to work and do their jobs. And they've been doing it for 5 years more efficiently than ever. And for some reason, we don't know why, they now need to come back into the office. We would like to understand why. We've raised concerns about infrastructure capacity. We've seen agencies all over the state decreasing their footprint, so I have no idea where folks are going to go if they have to come back into the office and work. We want to partner on a plan that will continue to support employees' flexibility without disrupting the business needs of our agencies. We're here to do the work. 3 weeks ago, we stood in the Capitol for our lobby day with 600 of our members, and Governor Walz told us how much he values public servants and the work that we do. He knew this was going to happen, but he told our members how valuable they were. And 2 weeks later, he tells them all that they need to come back into the office. I don't know at this point if any of his rhetoric was true at our lobby day. This is not how partnership works. This is not how we make decisions in Minnesota. We stepped up 5 years ago with the onset of COVID. Many of our members and our families put themselves in great health risk to do their jobs. We adapted to working remotely with very little prior planning, and we proved that it can work. And we've been doing it for 5 years. So to unleash this kind of chaos on our members at this point is irresponsible and reckless. We have a member in Rochester who works for the Pollution Control Agency. She took a job with the state 3 years ago. The job was advertised as telework, and now she's being told that she can't do that anymore. She's going to have to drive to St. Paul. She said she wouldn't be surprised if there's a massive amount of early retirement and a mass exodus of employees. There are so many talented people with amazing knowledge that will be gone, and MPCA already has a hard time recruiting and retaining employees because of the low wages and meager raises. She wonders what good this is actually going to do our workforce. She thinks that it is an use of power that is ridiculous, outrageous, and downright wrong. And she feels like it mirrors the disruptions that federal workers are facing. She thought Minnesota was better than this. We have another member who's watched 4 attorneys in her office burst into tears yesterday while reading the order, realizing that they were forced to choose now between their career and taking their children to school. She also noted that her supervisor said she anticipates she'll lose up to half of her current staff. So all of this information we'd be happy to share with you all if given, with Governor Walz if given the chance. We would like to ask Governor Walz and his team to hear from our members and learn how detrimental this is going to be to his workers, to our agencies, and to the people that we serve. And we will settle for nothing less than a full rescind of this executive order. Thank you.
Thank you, President Dayton. Next up, we have Bart Anderson, Ask Me Council 5.
Hi everybody, my name is Bart Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Ask Me Council 5, representing over 43,000 workers across the state and about 18,000 workers in state government. And we're here today with our labor partners to send a clear message. Unilateral decisions made behind closed doors without the input of the workers that it impacts is irresponsible, it's disrespectful, and it can't continue. Our folks go to work every day, some in telework positions, some in in-person positions based on the nature of the work they do. This is not about pitting teleworkers against people that have to come into the job to do the work they need to do because of the nature of their work they do. Plowing can't happen from home. Maintenance on our roadways can't happen from home. Making sure our correctional facilities are staffed and safe can't be done from home, and we get that. But there are other opportunities, and the state has admitted that they have gone to telework positions, whether it was before the pandemic or during the pandemic, to get qualified applicants that may not be in the cities or near the closest building that job is at. And so they've gotten qualified employees that are doing a good job. They are collaborating with their coworkers. They're not in a bubble. They're not isolated. They're working with their teams and they're getting the work done. So again, while today it's a telework policy, what's next? Telework may not affect you directly today, but what if it's a scheduling change? What if you have contract language that identifies you can work 4/10s and now you're told that's done? You're 5/8 in person, no questions asked. What's next? So again, if we are going to be considered a labor-friendly state and in partnership with our labor-friendly administration, we need to have conversations, not dropped at the last minute and told that all these people have to go back to work in a month and a half with no means to get there. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming today. I stand in solidarity with my union siblings. I am a dues-paying, proud MAPE member who began working for this administration prior to the pandemic under a remote work agreement. There are reasons why people are sought after in Greater Minnesota. They are sought for business needs and expertise. They are sought because Minnesota is a big state. And when we only have workers who represent the 7-county metro area, we do a disservice to our state. Minnesota exists outside of the metro, and our workers should reflect the diverse communities that we represent, we come from, and we support. Unilateral decisions with no guidance for executive branch administration and managers to know what to tell their teams creates panic, confusion, and fear. This is not how we work together. This is not how we collaborate together. And this is not how we build an enterprise that supports not only Minnesota's public sector workforce, but truly supports Minnesotans. Public sector workers work for the people of Minnesota, and the work that they do reflects the values of our state. And together we can do that, but not if we cut 60% of the state off with unilateral decisions.
That was State Representative Kim Hicks.
Oh, whoops, sorry, forgot that.
Yeah. Any other legislators or anyone else? Come on up.
Buenos dias. Good afternoon, Representative Maria Isa Perez Vega, and I represent this district that we are talking about where our state workers are being executively ordered to come back to work. And I stand with our workers who deserve to be a part of that conversation. Because as your representative in this district where these buildings stand, I deserve to be a part of that conversation. My constituents deserve to be a part of that conversation. We're seeing a whole large different type of disco dance right now, and it's not on rhythm. And the first and foremost, when we talk about what does good service with our laborers, whether they are working right here from the district that I represent, where our capital city is, or they're in Hibbing, or they're in Rochester, like we heard from our state rep Kim Hicks, we deserve to be a part of that conversation in making these decisions together. This can't be an overnight flip-flop. And I'm seeing how when we bring in forth, when I say we, what my constituents are wanting about creative economic initiatives, because I want a vibrant downtown. I don't want to see our markets closed down or our buildings being condemned. Those need to be addressed. Those issues need to be addressed before addressing a solution that nobody is a part of the equation that deserves to be there, that have been elected by our workers, that have been endorsed by our workers, and that are fighting for our workers. So I just want to address that these are decisions that we together with my colleagues who stand behind me from both sides of the aisle to say that this is concerning. And we are here to try to work bipartisan in this legislature that's been on a whole different rhythm, like I said. And so let's get on beat. And let's make sure that our governor recognizes that if we're not serving our laborers with dignity, then we're not serving all Minnesotans. Thank you.
Well, I'm so fortunate I get to stand with all these amazing workers. We are so blessed. I'm Jim Abler from Anoka in the Senate, and actually Minnesota relies on MAPE and AFSCME and all these workers to make it work. If it wasn't for them, actually the doors wouldn't open, and a lot of things wouldn't happen. And I've gotten to know them over my 26 years, and they're phenomenal. They're committed, they work hard. They could actually have done something else, but they chose to be part of the state of Minnesota. And you know, it's just, Governor Walz, you could have asked nicely. And so let's have that conversation. And just I want to remind you how amazing these workers are, and they deserve all the respect they can possibly get. So thank you.
All right, I guess we can open it up if there's any questions at this point too.
If the governor had negotiated and asked nicely, as Senator Abler said, would you have said yes?
I think that's a good question for my labor partners to kind of chime in on that one.
It sounds like you want this rescinded fully. If he had talked to you, would you have agreed to it at any time?
It's hard to say if we would have agreed to it if he had talked to us ahead of time, but it would be nice to understand the decision making behind it. It sounds like it's been in the works for multiple months. So just having an understanding of why this was necessary and why the timing. There's a 75-mile carve-out in the executive order for people who live more than 75 miles from their primary work location. Why 75 miles? If we calculate that out, that's from Owatonna to here. I don't know that anybody's going to be willing to drive from Owatonna to St. Paul for work. So it would have been really nice to understand why this was necessary right now. Our members are very against a change to their work arrangements. Many of them have come into state service with those expectations that telework could continue. So I can't say whether we would agree to it or not, but a conversation would have gone a long way.
Just quick follow-up. Is it in your contract right now that telework is an option?
Yes. Yes. We do have some provisions in our contract that allow for telework. They allow for a meeting with the supervisor and then an appeal process when those things change. And we'll be using those to the fullest. We found out Tuesday when the rest of the public found out with the executive order. Early afternoon. What's up? 4:17 p.m. Roughly. 35 seconds. Bart?
Yeah, same. Yeah, the timing was the same for us. We had received a request for a meeting with MMB. That was supposed to or that did happen yesterday. And according to MMB, after our meeting, the governor was going to make his announcement of this policy change. And we're still unclear if they've been in conversations, whether it's MMB or the governor's office, with agency heads and commissioners of agencies, why they thought a meeting at 12 or 10:30 in the morning was enough time for us to be at the table having a real conversation about the effects and impacts of what this is going to have to workers if the governor was going to announce it just minutes later. And so, again, a mantra of ours has been in the labor movement for the longest time: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Well, we weren't at the table, and clearly we ended up on the menu, and it's unacceptable.
Just real quickly for you, how is this different from what's happening in the private sector where a lot of people are being ordered by food?
I don't know that there is a whole lot of difference, but the difference in this situation is we've always had a relatively good working relationship with the state to bargain over wages, hours, working conditions, and any changes in those. And that did not happen this time.
Do you have any legal recourse, like filing a lawsuit or anything like that?
I mean, we could. We're exploring all of our options right now. Obviously, we'll use any contract language and grievance provisions that we need to on the front end. Well, we believe it violates the intent, again, of bargaining impacts over any changes in wages, hours, working conditions, benefits, any of those things. So.
To piggyback off Tom's question, somebody maybe watching at home who is in a private sector job has to go back 5 days a week and looks at this and says, looks like there's some flexibility there. You only have to go 50% of the time, have 2 months notice or what have you. What do you say to those people who say, this sounds like actually a pretty flexible deal?
if they were in the private sector and forced to go back.
Somebody observing
Mhm.
the pushback here to say that sounds like a pretty good deal. What would you say?
I would say feel free to contact one of our organizations and assert your right to be organized, to be able to have a discussion about that with your employer.
I heard childcare brought up. Maybe Megan can speak to that. You know, a lot of remote workers have to get childcare anyways because taking care of children is a full-time job too. So I'm curious, why is going back to work forcing workers to get childcare? Why don't they have that already?
Yeah, I first want to address something that I've heard from a couple of you. We're not going back to work. We've been working the whole time. So we're going back to the office, but we've been working, and we've been working more efficiently in a flexible environment. So the daycare issue, people made decisions over the pandemic when we went home. People had very flexible schedules, and they stopped significant amounts of daycare. Going back to the office, they have to do before school care now. They're going to have to do after school care because the mom can't be there to get her kids on the school bus or get them off of the school bus. And it's not just the expense of care, of additional daycare. It's the long wait list and the impossibility of finding that care here in Minnesota. That's been a problem for a long time. Did I address your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of remote workers who are watching or reading, maybe just wondering, like, I'm a remote worker. I already have to have childcare because I can't get my job done without it. So they hear you say, well, now I have to get childcare because I have to return to the office. I think there might be some confusion there.
You want to answer? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to give you an example from Rochester because Megan shared a story of a colleague of ours. So in Rochester, at our school-age childcare, we have a wait list for school-age childcare right now. And that wait list is very long. We opened up 300 slots this year, and we're still backed up. Because Rochester, as many of you may know, is a very medical community, and so we have a lot of childcare folks. So right now, somebody who works in Rochester and has a child that goes to one of our elementary schools, for example, our start time is 7:45 a.m. So those kiddos are getting picked up on their bus at 7:15, 7 o'clock, depending on where you live, right? So my colleagues, my MAPE colleagues in Rochester start work at 7:15, 7:30 when their kids get on the bus, and they're done at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Well, school gets out at 2:45. So they get off the bus right as my colleagues are getting off work. The timing is wonderful to limit that before care and after care issue. The problem we face in Rochester is I don't have before care and after care in our public school system, and I don't have any options anywhere in Rochester for before and after school care right now. I am short thousands of childcare slots across our city. So when we say we're talking about childcare, we're not talking about infant care or toddler care. My colleagues have childcare for their littles. We're talking about people who now are going to have to drive 75 miles, an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours each way, and take an 8-hour workday and turn it into a 12-hour workday or a 10-hour workday, and need to find the bookends of that childcare in an environment where we do not have the slots.
All right. I just want to thank everybody for coming out again today. We got to get to caucus, so have a good day. Thank you.
Kim, thank you.
You're welcome.
You did a really good job.
Amazing. You all did.
Spit bullets.
Yes, I did. Megan,